Today we're going to do a replay of an interview that I did earlier this year in January of David Dugan. So this is what we call a world of abundance. It's a really good interview. David's a great guy. He's been my business coach and Craig's business coach and mentor for many years. So we thought this was a great one to just replay this month so that you can get the value again. And I'll link to the show notes. Will be at businesslegallifecycle.com.au/56. And this is also show 140. So I'll also make it businesslegallifecycle.com.au/140. Thanks very much. And I hope you will enjoy this interview with David Dugan. Welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV, the live TV show all about the legal aspects of your business to help educate you on complex legal terms in an easy to understand manner, to help understand why you need to do certain things in your business from a legal point of view, and to help you develop a plan for the future. Our mission at Business Legal Lifecycle is to help empower all small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? That is the average time it takes from a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. Have you ever wanted to get legal advice but didn't understand what was going on? Do you feel like there is a divide between lawyers and their clients? Then this TV show is for you. It is all about empowering you and your business with the knowledge and tools to ensure that this doesn't happen to you. Business Legal Lifecycle TV delivers a twice-weekly show focusing on the legal aspects of your business. At lunchtime on Mondays, we present Fast Fix Monday, a quick 5 to 10 minute show that will give you some actionable steps to consider for the week for your business. And at lunchtime on Wednesdays, we present our in-depth show of between 30 minutes and an hour, where we go through complicated legal aspects of your business in a simple to understand, plain English manner. And whether that is through educational pieces or interviews with experts in their fields.
Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle. Today is one of our special shows where we're interviewing a special guest, and today the interview is with Mr. Dr. David Dugan. Now, David is the founder of Elite 500 Mastermind, which is a mentoring program. He's a business coach and a mentor in his business. And ours as well. He's also part of the DENT program in Australia, which used to be the Key Personal Influence program. He's the author of an Amazon best-selling book, Bulletproof Business, and he's been published in numerous different articles and various other things in the media over the last few years working with businesses. His main focus is to help business owners create intergenerational wealth and prosperity. Now, we've known David for a number of years. We've done lots of work with him. He's helped our business immensely. So we thought it would be a good idea to get him in, do an interview with him to run through the sorts of things that he can help businesses through, particularly in the expansion and the scaling phase. So, Jeremy, you did the interview. Do you want to give a quick summary of the important things you got out of it? And then after that, we'll go with the interview.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. Yeah, so look, I think this is a great interview and something that people listening to the podcast or watching the TV show are going to get a lot of value out of. David does go through a lot of different aspects, but probably the three key things are, the first one is, what are the key aspects that people can get wrong in business? So David goes through those and gives some hints and tips about what you need to do to avoid those problems or to minimize them in your business. The second one is an understanding of time and how time can be used in your business. And this is something that I think a lot of business owners do get wrong, and even employees, that you need to understand that everyone's got the same amount of time. It's how you use it that will get you the best results. So David goes through time and gives some really great tools for that. And finally, David and I have a chat about where technology is going into the future and where business is going to the future as well. David's just got back from the United States, and he has some really good insights into where things are going into the future. So as we're starting this show with a worksheet, to give you some value. So what we'd like you to do, we've posted it on the Facebook page, and it'll be in the show notes if you're listening to us on the podcast. But I really encourage you to have a look at that and to get some value, because a lot of what David talks about are really practical things that you can do today to help your business going forward. And David also gives some contact details of where you can contact him. So without further ado, please enjoy my interview with David Dugan. Welcome, David Dugan, to Business Legal Lifecycle TV and our podcast.
Hey, g'day Jeremy, g'day folks, how you doing?
So David, I thought we'd just start out with a few things about you and your business. So can you tell us a bit about your history? How did you get into business coaching?
Well, in 1999, I got formally introduced into coaching and mentoring. Specifically, I got a coach. That was a time where it wasn't cool to get a coach. And I was a lieutenant commander in the Navy. I'd just taken this massive job when the Second Gulf War had just started, and I was in charge of operations for my area. So it was a high-stress job, and I just realised I wanted to have more help. And I'd just been sort of promoted, and so it was just a real place for me to get extra help. And I really immersed myself into learning and training. So I was in the Navy, went through that, had a coach. Then the Navy brought out a mentoring program, an official mentoring program, and I became an official mentor within that. So specifically from a professional background, in 2000, the year 2000 was when I officially started mentoring and coaching in a professional sense. At the same time, though, I was like into my sport, and so I loved all sorts of different things. I really dedicated myself that time to a sport called the modern pentathlon, and that's an Olympic sport. And there are five different sports, 5 different elements of that. And so I had a coach for every one. So I really got this sense of coaching from different angles, people looking at different parts of your game. And I went in and I became a trainer for Tony Robbins in 2006. I think it was 2006. And so I was doing that within his organisation. I've been travelling around the world, even to this day, helping put on events and run different elements of that. So I went through the Navy doing this. And I was on my extracurricular time. I was doing it with the Tony Robbins world. I love mentoring and coaching. Was doing it with the Navy. At the same time, I love business. I've always had a business on the side, right from the very beginning. I've had like small businesses, I've had startup businesses, working with other people. So I love business and I love mentoring. And then I thought, well, I sort of retired as a commander in the Navy, and I was like, well, what am I going to do now? What do I really lights my fire? And it was, let's do business, let's do mentoring and coaching, let's put the two together, and here we are today. And we've mentored now well over 3,500 businesses.
Yep.
In a one-on-one relationship, it's like around 1,700 in that sort of space, and many more in small groups. So that's around the 3,500 in small groups, and then large ones, I'm not even going to count them. So we've done a lot,
yep.
And we've really honed our skills so that we can really get great results. And last year, as you know, that the average results that our clients took, was a 418% increase in their net profit. And so I think that's a testimony to just the work that we've been putting into to get results, basically.
Yep, excellent. And you mentioned the modern pentathlon before. How far did you get with that? Did you get to the Olympics, or were you? I
didn't get to the Olympics, but I did go to the World Championship. So I retired about a year and a half before the Olympics. Had to make a decision to either do be professional in the military or become a professional sports person. The only problem being a professional sports person, you don't get paid. Doesn't matter how good you are, certainly in modern pentathlon anyway, you didn't get paid. And it was like, I had to make a choice, and I went through a process of working out I've got a decision-making process that I use, and I went through and went, what's going to serve my needs best? And it was very, very close, but it was like focus on my career. And so made a decision to stop that, and then, continued on doing, in the Navy, doing what I did there, and had a wonderful career, had a fantastic career, and it was a brilliant run and a good stepping stone for what we do today. And, we love working with entrepreneurs and small business around the world. So that's what we do. At the end of the day, small business is the backbone of every single company. If you look at every country in the world, every commerce, the people who innovate the most, who employ more people, who risk everything, more than anyone else is in small business space. So I figured that the place that I can make the biggest difference was working with them, and here we are today.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I think that dovetails nicely into the Elite 500 Mastermind program. So why did you start that program?
I mean, the part of it was I've done a lot of one-on-one work with people, and so you learn what works. There are just a handful of things. If you do them and do them really well, you get results. The thing about that is people were getting great results, and it was limited to what me just doing some one-on-one. And then I realised that when I worked with small groups, they actually got a much faster and better result. So, it's about building a community. So it's very lonely being an entrepreneur. It can be very lonely. Are you making the right decisions? Is this right? Is this wrong? And you think you're doing the right thing, and even with all the right reading and courses you do, are you on the right track? So there's part of that. That's where the mentoring and coaching gets in. But what is the real catalyst is when you see other people that you share in a community. So it's not, it's something that you're like, particularly in smaller groups where people can see, wow, he's doing that, she's doing that. That gives inspiration. So when you build that together, I wanted to build a community of entrepreneurs that are growing together, number one. Number two, they get to collaborate together. When you get the right mindset of people, then they can actually work in a true sense of partnership. So I was around creating a group of people that are going to grow on their entrepreneurial journey for the next 10, 20 years. As they grow, we basically co-pilot their business with them and hold their hand all the way through, making sure they make the right decisions and get the best results. And it works even better when you work with other people. So we created the Elite 500 Mastermind to help do that. And the 500 part of that relates to the different levels. If that's a question that people often ask, well, it's like, let's get $500,000 in revenue.
Yep.
Then let's get $500,000 in profit out of the business. And that's a different skill. And these are just different skills that are required. Then there's $500,000 you can make in a single promotion. Like, how do you how do you learn the skill of promotions? And so that's that one. And the last one is $500,000 that we donate to worthy causes. And our goal is to have at least 500 entrepreneurs donating $500,000, which is many millions of dollars. And for that can be a purpose for good. One thing for sure is that social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that are giving are critical to society. And so we're like, let's be the catalyst to help that make that happen. So that's Elite 500.
Yeah, excellent. But you've anticipated my next question, which is what was the Elite 500 Crusade? You can tell that you and I have worked together for a long time. That I was already there. So that's the business, the mastermind, and I think for the people who are watching this and listening to us, that's really quite unique. I've looked at a lot of different mastermind groups, and none of them have a goal or a group purpose. It's all about everyone helping individual businesses, and I think that's quite unique. Was that a deliberate ploy that you made, David, to go down that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I looked at other people doing different things, and I went, well, what do I want? And I actually went, I don't care what anyone else is doing. I just went, okay, what is it that I want to see happen? And I wanted to see a community of people growing together. They go to one, because I see a lot of people go from one course to another course, and they become seminar junkies, and that's all great. But then when that ends up happening, they spend a heap of money, they spend a heap of time, and they get a little bit of results, they get their head up, but then they kind of do this up and down and running. And I didn't want that. I wanted a group of people that were there for the long haul, that were there to truly grow together and collaborate together. And you only get that over a period of time. So we really wanted to create a community of people. As you know, that we get great results financially for our clients, and we don't want people just to come in just because they can make a lot of money from us. It's got to be that yes, make money, and to use that for the purpose for good. And absolutely, that is the future. If we're not doing something along those lines, then I don't believe in the next 2 to 4 years, most businesses will really struggle if they're not doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good way to think about it. And I know and I've said this to you before, that the group has really grown into that vision, and that's really, it's coming along very nicely. So if people are interested, we'll give some tips about how they can find you after we go through the rest of the interview. So let's talk about, give some people some tips about building a business. So obviously you've worked with a lot of businesses, and you and I had a bit of a chat about this before. And what would be the key aspect of business that you see people get wrong? And I think there's probably 2 or 3 here, but what are the main things that people get wrong in business that you think that people should do?
Yeah, I think what's important is to go to the 50,000 foot level. Mm-hmm. 1, to answer that question, and 2, for business owners to do the same thing. What I see is a lot of people who are really talented, have got a great passion, a great desire to serve and to do good, and they go along in their business. They become great operators. They're good at doing their craft. The problem with people that are great operators is they get tired. They get worn out. They kind of like, all right, here we go. Chug, chug, chug. Let's get it going. And let's go. And they end up on this roller coaster that just goes up and down. And sometimes they get a little bit of headway. A lot of times they actually don't get the true traction that they want. So what we really want to do is turn people from being operators to be great owners. And that's a mindset shift first. And then there's practicalities around that. And I think the biggest thing I see get people wrong is that they forget about, are they being a business owner or being a business operator. They're usually the person that's most skilled at their craft.
That's right.
So because they're the most skilled at the craft, they think, well, I'm the best person to get in and get it done, so I'll get it done. And yes, maybe if it's just you to start with, you'll need to do that. But that's why you want to employ people, bring people on board to then leverage. I mean, the whole principle is turning your time into team. I hear crazy rubbish around, what's the best business to be in? One, we don't have team members. We don't, like, that is total garbage. Team members can look in many different ways. They can be direct employees, they can be consultants, they can be people that are in partnerships. There's no way you can really grow a successful business if you're not doing some form of turning your time into team. So if I look at the biggest problem there, you go right to the 50,000 foot level, I think people forget why they started the business. Or even when they start, they go, oh, this is why I can make money. They don't really focus on what they want. And if I think about that and I look at, okay, what are the key elements? If you had to identify what the three major points are, and I'd say working out what you want first is critical. And the three parts, that first one is from a financial perspective. Can I write up on here?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, people who are listening to the podcast, you can go back to the to our Facebook page or YouTube or Periscope, and you'll be able to see what David's writing up on the board.
All right, so here we go on this one. So I'd say, like, the big thing is going from an operator to an owner. And what are some of that's from a concept perspective, everyone needs to kind of nail that one. I think the next thing is, within that context, is what do you want? Like, so just understanding that, and I'd say, what do you want? And when you look at what you want, there are three areas. One is, how much cash do you want? Now, it's so surprising that the number of business owners ask, how much do you want? They go, I want $1 million. And I go, really? So tell me what you want to use $1 million for. And the truth is, most of them haven't even looked at it. They don't really know. They just pluck it out of their ass, and it's like, oh yeah, let's just do a bit of a rectal pull. I'm guessing what this might be. So it's really important to understand. I call it the ideal lifestyle. So how much money do you need to live the lifestyle that you want? And I've done this with literally thousands and thousands of people, and I know what that range is. People that are in the Western Hemisphere anyway, how much money that needs to be. And I don't want to kind of necessarily tell people what it is, but when you go through and work out your cost of living, your cars, looking at holidays, looking at buying stuff you want, that range is usually a lot smaller than what most people think. So we want to, from an income perspective, what does this business need to produce to give you the result that you want? That means you're going from being operator to owner. Because what happens is, a lot of times the business is like the dog and the tail. It's like the tail wags the dog, and that is, well, how much money do you, a business owner, how much money do you have? Oh, how much money does the business give you? Oh, it gives me whatever it gives me. Yeah, well, how much time does it give you? Oh, well, we haven't taken. You'd be surprised the number of time I hear people say that I haven't taken a holiday for 2 years or 3 years or something. It's just crazy. So the business is dictating to them what they want to do instead of the other way around. Like, you want to make sure that you're setting up from the very, very beginning, what is it that you want out of this thing from an income perspective. And at least as the first measure of that is, what's your ideal lifestyle? My belief, though, is you've got to go a lot further than that, because that ideal lifestyle is very much around you. And we want to make sure that you go, well, how can you do something even more? And that goes to the last one, which is impact.
Yep.
So how can yes, you're in the business, but who else are you going to help? And where, as you know, that our vision for what we have for our clients is to help them to create intergenerational wealth and prosperity for themselves and their communities. And collectively, we'll be able to create a world of abundance. And abundance is so much closer than what most people think of. And that's very much around the impact. Like, why are you doing this? Yes, it is to give you time. Yes, it is to give you money. But why else? You know, if it's just for you to make money and give you time, then maybe there's some other things. And what I know is that being a business for good is absolutely, you know, post the last GFC, that has been the shift. And if you're not in that space, it's going to be very, very difficult going forward. I was very fortunate. I just got back from New York with working with Virgin Unite. I caught up with Richard Branson a couple of times last year as well. And absolutely this whole principle that they believe and that they're espousing as one of the many people is that if you're not a business for good, it's going to be a real struggle for you going forward. Yep. So these are 3 things to work out exactly what is it you want. I think most people forget that. They forget what that is, and that needs to be revisited at least once a year and probably at least a couple of times a year, just looking at how are we actually going. What are you optimizing for? You know, what is the vision? What's the vision that you're aiming for in these areas? Because when you have the income and the time together, that gives you lifestyle. You have impact in there. So these here are really, really important to have clarity and just go back and have a look at and revisit. Because over time, your income might change, your time might change. Like for me, my income goal is actually a little bit less. My time goal has got a lot more. I've got 3 little kids, so that's definitely risen a lot more. So what I think about is when you go from being an operator to an owner, what are the key principles? You know, it's a mindset shift right from the very beginning. The problem with that mindset shift is that most people get their needs met from their business. And so as an operator, you get high fives from clients, even from team members. Oh, you did a great job, David. You did this good, Jeremy. Well done. Oh, that was a great deal. You did this great contract you wrote. And so you get a good pat on the back. You feel your needs being met to a high level. And that becomes addictive. And so we end up getting into what I call a crazy 8, where you go, yes, 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 this is great. Oh, this is awesome. This is outstanding. Let me do the crazy 8 on here. You know, yes, it's amazing. It's awesome. I love my business. And then to go, oh, man, but my time's down. Every time I go away, the business, you know, drops because it relies on me. And it's like, oh, this is terrible. And then it's like, yes, let's get this thing moving again. Yep. And there's this crazy 8 where it just stays in that cycle. And that happens because a lot of times most people don't realise how highly their needs are met. To break through that, though, to really kind of break through that, we need to keep an idea around that our needs can be met in different ways and on an even higher level when we can build a team, which we talked about earlier, build a team that is getting rewarded. So instead of you getting high five, your team do, but you get the gratification of seeing other people grow, so that your level of contribution, your level of learning actually increases a lot more. And that's what helps to go from operator to owner. And that's when you get into that owner space, that means that you're increasing the value of the business and also the valuation of the business, which I know in the legal life cycle, that's the phase that we're talking about now, that you want to build a business that can work without you. Yes. Even if you don't want to sell it. You've got a going concern that makes you money. It's an asset in the truest sense of the word. Someone may want to come and acquire you, which is great if that's what you want. A lot of people that I know speak to, they don't want to sell their business because this is their exit strategy. Like my business, this is my exit strategy. This is what I'm doing now for the rest of my time because I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. So this principle here is a mindset principle, building an asset that increases the value and the valuation of business. Making sure you really, really, really know what you want. And probably the third thing that is absolutely critical is once you work out this here is, well, the only reason to be in business, the only reason to be in business is to solve people's problems. If you can't solve that problem, then there's no point of being in business. That is the only reason to be in business. So the biggest trap that I see, apart from these here, the third thing is people fall in love with their product. They're like, oh, I've got this gadget. I saw a great, I was very fortunate last week to be with a guy who, his name's Astro Teller, which a lot of people may not know. His title, his job title was Captain of Moonshot. So he's the guy who runs Google X's, all their crazy ass ideas. He runs it. And this principle that he was talking about there is understanding these moonshots, these big ideas is the only reason to be in business is to solve people's problems.
Yep.
And so it's looking at the biggest problems that people want to get solved. You'll get a higher value for what you do. If it's something that's every day and it's very like manual labour of some sort, well, it can even still manual labour can still be very effective. But you want to be looking at solving the highest problems that people are willing to pay money for.
Yep.
So I would go on here is, question asked is, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? And then that leads very closely, well, who do I want to solve that for? Who's my ideal client? And I call it ideal client avatar, ICA. Who's your ideal client avatar? So who do you love working with, and what's the problem that they've got that you would love to solve? And this is the easiest way to ask that question is, what business are you in?
Yep.
And then like you're a lawyer, people look at me and say I'm a business mentor and coach. But what business am I really in? Well, the business I'm really in is creating intergenerational wealth and prosperity for those that person or that group of people and their community. So collectively, we're creating a world of abundance. So that is what we're about, and that is what we're doing. And that's very much our ideal client. The problem we're solving there is around helping people understand their business better, solve problems better, productize, package that better, how to market it, how to sell that better, how to make sure the optics in their business are spot on, so that they can actually not just make a lot of revenue, but make a lot of profit off the back end of it, turning their time into team with leverage through growing a team and knowing effectively how to do that. So they're all the kind of granular areas about what's the problem of solving. People want to have more money, they want to have more time, they want to make a big impact. So we know that they're the biggest problems, and that holistically that they want to create intergenerational wealth and prosperity. A lot of times they don't know that. So this problem here, they may not even know what that problem is.
Yeah, exactly.
So in solving that problem is you've got to think about what's the problem that you can articulate even better than your ideal client can do. And I would say this is about having a PhD in your client's biggest problems. And Astro Teller, this guy, the Captain Moonshots, they're just going through and saying what are the biggest problems that we can solve that can make the biggest difference. So I mean, hot off the press from coming in last week from being in the United States. And listening to him, and that's a key thing. So if I think about some of the key areas, there'd be three principles that come from that. There would be a fourth one around understanding how to work time properly.
Yep.
That we can talk about that later if that's relevant.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a lot there. And we're recording this in January 2018. And so one of the things you said in that I think is really valuable for people to understand is revisiting it. This isn't something that you do once and then put away in your second drawer, never to look at again. And you mentioned reviewing it at least once a year. If you were going to do it once a year, what would be the best time of the year to actually do this?
Well, if you haven't done it, it'd be now.
Yep.
So if you haven't done it, it'd be now. Having said that, let's just say you're on a rhythm and you've done this, and let's say personally with our clients how we do this. I believe it's really important to be ahead of the game, to make sure that that you're thinking strategic, you're looking out as far as you possibly can to make sure you're planning and putting things in place. So I see a lot of entrepreneurs who are like, their focus is so close. I need to make money and cash now, and so it's like, and ends up being this rush, and they never break through that. You want to really think as strategic as possible.
Yep.
So what I find is the best time to do that is around November.
Okay.
And you go, November, that's an odd time of year. Well, why November? Now, even in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the same things that we go into a Christmas period. There's a crazy December period. Then we go into January, and in the 31st of December, everyone sets their New Year's resolutions, which most people forget about by 2 o'clock the following day. Whatever it ends up being, it hardly lasts. And then comes January and they just hit the ground running so slowly.
Yep.
So I'm a big believer that you do it in November before that crazy period. You lay out your plans, which means you can go into that Christmas period. You can go into that time period feeling refreshed, feeling like you've got all your stuff organised. You can have a real break, be fully present with your family. And come January, you're already rock and rolling. You know what you're doing, your team's implementing, and you're making things happen. So I find November is a great time of year to revisit that, to relook at that, And, you know, certainly Christmas time with family and friends, if you want to look at it again and do that one more time, that's wonderful. But otherwise, I'd suggest that's a great time to do that. And even in the Northern Hemisphere, I would say that would still apply. Sometimes, if you're going to do it a second time of year, I would be doing that in July after the financial year. So after, in the Southern Hemisphere, certainly in Australasia, we have a financial year that finishes at the end of 30th of June. So that as soon as your numbers are in, if you're going to revisit it, that would be another time I'd revisit it.
Excellent. So yeah, so if you're listening to this for the first time, doesn't matter what time of the year it is, do it now. And if it's around November, then revisit around November and then around June, July. I think that's a great tip and good to realign and make sure that you know where you're going with your business. So David, you mentioned it briefly.
November, if we wanted to around November, we hold an event, a 2-day event that is specifically there to plan out actually not just the next year, but actually the next 10 years and 3 years and 1 year and bring it back. So there's an opportunity. Listeners, if they want to listen, it's in January now, but if you wanted to have a look at that, our event is on the 22nd, 23rd of November this year. Next year, I'm not sure when it'll be, but if anyone wants to be involved in that, we're more than happy to do a Business Legal Lifecycle special.
Sounds good. Well, anyone who's interested can send me an email, lifecycle@jeremystretton.com, or message us on Facebook or on any of the avenues where you get this this interview. So, David, in your book Bulletproof Business, which I mentioned in the intro, you talk about, and you mentioned it just before, about what business are you really in. And I think this is a really important concept that people need to understand, is understanding what business you're actually in. I'm a lawyer. Well, I'm not really. I'm in the business of helping people solve their problems. And you know, there's many other people, and it was certainly a mind shift for me when you went through that. So you've kind of talked about it already, but could you give us some examples maybe of some clients where that's worked, where they didn't understand what business they were in, and when they did, they were able to really, go a lot further in their business?
Yeah. What I might do is I might go upstream a little bit more. I want to give credit to the person who taught me this. And it's a fellow by the name of Jay Abraham, who's a marketing genius, and I was his PA whenever he came to Australia. So this is where I learned this. I think the best way to say it is when people go to a hardware store to buy a drill, they're not going to the hardware store to get a drill. What they really want to get is they want to get a hole. They actually want to produce a hole. So that's the I think from a simplistic view. In a real example, there was a company after the Second World War that were in the manufacturing of drill bits, the little bits that go at the end of a drill, and they realised this. And what happened, though, they were an American company, was that the Japanese, their manufacturing was improving so well, they could produce a drill bit that was actually a higher quality and far cheaper than they could in the US, particularly this drill bit company. And they realised, well, what business are we really in? We're not in the drill bit business. We're really in the making of whole business. So, well, how can we make a better whole? How can we help and they're in the industrial space, how can we help people make a better whole? So they went into lasers. So now they only manufacture the best lasers in the world that produce holes, and they're much better than a drill bit would ever do. So I think that's a really good example of the history and how I picked that up. So then, if you look at let's take another example. One of my clients is in human HR and recruiting. And we went through earlier in HR and recruiting, but what are you really about? They were really around decreasing stress and actually exactly the topic we're talking here, around helping businesses scale through team. Yep. They realised that that's what they were about. And they're around, well, how can we help people scale the business even better than what they're already doing? And they said, well, yes, we can hire, we can recruit, we can give these other areas, but they realised that they built, which was a system to work out, this is for more medium to large size companies, to work out whenever you sell a business, for example, you have to get a full asset list of all the assets in your balance sheet. But what people never look at is what's the people asset. So they've created this software that any business can go in and work out what their strengths and weaknesses are. It's like a SWOT analysis, but not quite, a lot more detailed, and it goes through and works out what is the true asset of the business, what are the holes that they need to play. So they were very clear that they weren't just in HR recruiting, otherwise they were just horse trading. You buy me, I'll do this. They actually added a lot more value because now people are like, oh, you've actually helped me create a whole game plan for what I'm actually doing. Another client works in the library training services, so they teach people to they've got an online training to teach people to be librarians in effect from cert 3, 4, 5, and then diplomas and I think degrees is in that space. So they went, okay, well, yes, we're a training institution. What we're really about is helping people have a career where they can help help people build a career that they can love, that is in the library space. So they're very much about building careers and building lifestyles. Another client is actually a lawyer who helps people immigrate to Australia.
Yes.
And so they realise that they're not about, yes, they can help with immigration, but that's not what they're about. They're about helping people set up lifestyles and set up to have a fantastic lifestyle in a new country. It's about lifestyles and fresh starts is what they're really about. Yep. So there's simple example, because then it helps you. As soon as you think about what business you're really in, it should lift you up to a place that you go, hang on a second, I can look at all of the different things. I'll give you, what's another example? One of the telecommunication guys we work with, they put phones and PBS systems in companies. And I was like, well, what business are you in? We're in the telephony business. Okay, but what business are you really in? And I realized we're in the business of communication, of intra-team communication. I said, well, if that's what you're really about, then what else could you be doing? And they went, hang on a second, well, if they're about intra-team or intra-company communication, we could be doing a whole stack of different things. So they end up having a whole training that would then go and teach people how to communicate better and how to save time. And so they so it lifted their whole thinking, and they did a holistic view on a lot more things than just selling telephones.
Yeah, I think it's very valuable, and I think 3 out of the 4 people that you mentioned there, I know who you're talking about, and I know that they're doing some pretty cool stuff and innovative stuff because they've made that shift. They've made the shift from just thinking of themselves as a particular business and looking at, well, what's the solution they solve, and then a whole range of solutions and other ways that they can help people comes into play. So I think it's really valuable. And I would encourage anyone who's listening to this to have a think about that and really try and work that out. Now, David, when you were talking before about the 3 things, you mentioned a 4th one about time. So do you want to just quickly go through that? Because I think time's something that I know, the work that I've done, it has really helped me be more efficient and lets me do a lot more with my time. And I think that would add a lot of value to people if you could just go through that briefly.
Okay. Didn't expect to do that one, but I will do that. It's totally cool. What I'd probably say around time is there's so many different ways to look at it, and I think the big thing is people talk about time management, and time management's a bit of a furphy. Like, it really doesn't exist. You can't manage time. The president of any country in the world, the prime minister of any country in the world, the top athletes, the top singers, the Richard Bransons in the world, the one thing that is equal amongst all men and women across the world is time. So you can't manage time. What you can manage, though, is your focus. And where the focus goes, the energy flows. And I see a lot of people wasting a heap of their time because they're putting it into stupid things. They think, oh, I need to go and get a new web design. Well, I'll go and work how to do that. Oh, I'll go learn, some social media thing. Well, I'll go and learn how to do that. I'll go and do a WordPress course, and I'll go and learn how to do a CRM system. And it's like, that's just dumb. That is dumb. You want to think strategically. Think that you're the conductor of an orchestra and that you're getting other people to work with you. So it's about looking at the highest level of your time and making sure that where the energy, as it says, is where the focus goes, the energy flows. So you've got to control your focus. Yep. One of the things, so there'll be probably 2 areas of this, and let me just draw it up here. I learned this in the Navy. I learned this actually from my practice managers. I used to be a dentist and ran clinics, and so this is exactly how we ran our clinics to make sure the clinics were the most effective and actually made the most amount of money for the time of career. So this is where I learned. I know a lot of people in different business sense use it in different ways. I can just tell you where I learned it was from my practice managers, and then I've adapted that into an entrepreneurial space. So let's say you're a business owner. It still doesn't always have to be business owner, but you're a leader or a manager. You want to at least think of your time in 3 different chunks. And I'll do retro. There's gold time, blue time, and black time. And then what the hell is this talking about? Well, what it is you want to actually look at this time and set your intention of what you want it to be from the very beginning. So what is gold time? I don't have a gold color, but I use this here. Gold, the reason they call it gold is because it comes back to my medical health background. That is a thing called the golden hour. So if anyone, being in the military, I was in the Middle East, and I was also in the tsunami hit. I was part of that, helping run the hospitals and the triage centre. This golden hour is that they say that depending on the wound that's happened, that you can pretty much almost fix anyone as long as they get to a facility within the first hour. So that hour is golden time. So it's this thinking around how can you have this hour of the most productive time? What would that look like? So this gold time, particularly for a business owner, and I say that's working on the business. That's truly looking at the business. So what is on the business time? It's critical thinking. It's strategic guidance. It's looking at the biggest picture. Where are we going? It's asking the question, what's the problem we're solving this year? Like, is it evolve? What are we really, really doing? What's that about? And going through and thinking about that and unlocking that. So, that would be just a simple example. Looking at productization, pricing, that can very much fit into that category there. Just critical thinking questions. The question I love in this space to ask here is, what don't I see? What don't I see? That's a good strategic thinking. So this is working on the business. I call it goal time. Then you have the blue time. Blue time is in the business. And in the business is like, this is the thing you need to do to make the money now. It's like, this is what you do, you're working with clients, this is what they're paying you for. So that's working in the business. But using a lawyer example, it might be your billable hours, not what you guys do, but it's the hours that you put in. And then admin time is, so black time is admin and finance. So looking at this here, and then what are you optimizing for? We talked about time before. What are you optimizing as far as when you're working in the business? What's this percentage look like? So probably the thing I'd say for the listeners is when you look at the last week, so just look at the last week, is give yourself a score, like as a percentage of what did you do last week.
Yep.
And set your intention, like by the end of the 6 months or by the end of the year, whatever that time period is going to be relevant, is what do you want it to be? So you go, oh yeah, I spent half a day last week. Well, half a day is 10%. Full day is 20%. What does that look like? So when you look at time, it's about what is that you want to get out of it. Now, clearly, the more on the business time you spend, usually the more profitable business will be. However, if you're in startup mode growing your business, you're going to have to work your butt in here to make the money. That is normal. I see people go, yes, I'm going to spend 70% of my time on the business. Really? Well, if you can do that, that's damn good. I'm super duper impressed. If you get into the 40 to 50% in time like here, that's stud value. Like that's seriously good, good work to truly, truly work on the business. So I think the first thing is optimize it. Then what comes from that is to look at your week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And based on these times here, is to actually block that time. Like I learned this from my practice managers. From a clinical perspective, what we do 3 checkups in the morning, then we get in, we do implants and crown and bridge. By about 10:30, 10:45, we've made all the money in the practice. Everything else is green. So it's making sure we do the most important jobs at the very beginning, and they would be color-coded. And part of my color coding actually comes from what we did in the military. So this is it's often called a default diary or your ideal week. Whatever it looks like, it's okay, but actually setting your intentions of what you want it to look like. This is in the morning, this is in the afternoon. If you just do morning and afternoon, that would be certainly enough to start with.
Yep.
So this here, I think, is a critical thing. One thing that I found makes it really, really effective and really makes people think is on the other page, we talked about how much cash you want to make. What do you want your business to make out of this? Now, if you're in there delivering or partly delivering your business, then we know that you need to deliver a certain amount. So when you look at this week, what I love to do for me is sit down and actually for each of these days, put on here, on my ideal week, how much money each day is going to make me. And then multiply that by 48 or however many days I have as my, the weeks that you want to work, and that should equal how much money you're going to make for the whole year. And if it doesn't, then your product and your pricing, there's a problem. Better you work it out now than work 12 months and then realise, oh, I made a mistake. You know, here I'm working really, really hard and didn't get the results that I want. Because you've probably got a shitty product or shitty pricing. And not that it's a shitty product, but you haven't articulated, packaged and priced it in well enough, or truly understood what your client's ideal, you know, what their ideal client is, what their real problem is. You fall in love with your product. And I see that happen all the time.
Yep.
One of the things Astro Teller said from Google X was that if you go into a company and you see their prototype, you see this beautiful example of their awards, or not necessarily the awards, but like the product they produced and how proud they are of it. And said that's a classic example when you know someone's fallen in love with their product.
Really?
Because what they should be showing you is the beat up product, the thing that didn't work, and celebrate the stuff that didn't work, because that means you're being innovative and you're thinking about ways that you can solve problems to a higher level. I thought, wow, that's a really good measure of you know, how well you're solving problems, that you should be rewarding problem solving, not, oh, we've got this beautiful product.
Cool. Well,
that would be a thing I say around time.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know you won't. I know we hadn't really talked about it, but I thought that was really valuable, and I think people will get quite a bit out of that. So thank you for going through that. So as you mentioned a couple of times, you just got back from a trip to the US. Can you tell us a bit about what you learnt over there, and and also where you think the future's going, and what people need to do to prepare for it?
So we're recording this in the beginning of 2018. So I'm going to mark my words. I'm going to say that next 2 to 4 years, unprecedented change coming our way, and ways that most people are completely unaware of. Just to give you a small example, that in the United States alone, started 1 year ago, we've got 2 more years. So in 3 years, there will be 9 million drivers, professional drivers, who do not have a job anymore. Now, just to break that down, out of that, 2 million of those are professional truck drivers, or semi-trailer truck drivers. So currently, right now, there are driverless trucks that are semi-trailers that are going around the United States. If you look at the driverless cars, there are 3 countries in the world that have approved driverless cars. And Australia's not there yet, but it will be. But there's some of the countries that already approved that. So all your Uber drivers, your Lyft, for those in the US, there's a similar version there as well. A lot of those won't exist. Look at the taxi drivers. Well, we kind of go, do we really need taxi drivers? Well, you look at the people who deliver parcels and the parcel delivery. Like all these people, that's one little industry. So the change now is huge, and I think most people are a little bit oblivious to it. While I was in the US, I was very fortunate. I was in New York, Texas, and in LA. I spent some time with the Virgin Unite team and looking at what they're putting their emphasis into, and really about this business for good. So this whole principle, if you're not in doing something around helping the planet in some way, then that's probably not going to get the traction in the marketplace. Yep. Looking to the future, let me just take from a healthcare perspective. So in 2030, 2029, 2030, 2031, around that period of time, for every year that we're alive, you'll extend your life by another year. Wow. The technology that is happening, so basically our job now is to stay alive for the next 8 to 10 years. That is really our job. That is so important. Our brains, what we've our neocortex, which is our thinking part of our brain, had a major, it went from being, the Neanderthal man to where we are now. It's our neocortex in that area there is what the area that's growing on. The only problem is it's been now limited by the size of our craniums. So we've maxed that out. Coming in the future, the thinking that we'll have is we will interface with the cloud. Like we will be able to extend our thinking through the cloud. What the hell are you talking about? Well, we're already doing it. We're already doing it through these things. When someone asks a question, you get on your Wikipedia. You go in and you use calculators. You go in, there's more technology in this phone than President Reagan or half the presidents of the world 20 years ago had. So we're already doing it, but it'll extend even more.
For anyone who's listening to the podcast, David just held up his iPhone and showing the remarkable number of apps and what it can do. Yeah.
So I think the big message is it's happening, and it's happening much quicker than most people are ready for and that they're prepared for. So how do you stay up with these trends? Number one is fall in love with your client, fall in love with their problems, and look at ways that you can improve. So I think that's the biggest thing. And the second thing is to really make sure you're a business for good. When you look at the different trends, there are about 8 different areas of trends. One is things like around communication. So even in communication, it'll be not too distant future, certainly within, they're saying that by the end of the next year, we'll be in 5G. 5G means that you've got to download a movie within half a second, like with instant. Google has created this Loon project, Loon, which is having these balloons that float around that can send signals. The Virgin Group have also done all these satellites that are low orbiting satellites. So basically, the next really, I mean, the Loon's already working. It's already out there. They're putting them out over the next couple of years. So there'll be more satellites, more helium balloons that will cover half the world that are currently unconnected, which means that half the planet is not connected right now. Within the next 2 to 3 years, at the longest, the whole planet will be connected. That's a really important one. So that basically we should be thinking that we're a global business. But the other one is around new money. Last year there was a massive shift around cryptocurrencies and ICOs, coin offerings and all this sort of stuff. And there's a lot of craziness. And are we in a balloon of some sort? Yes, probably. And is one thing I can say for sure, it is here to say that the blockchain philosophy and what it's doing is absolutely here before. Whether Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whether those are around or not, that's another matter. But the actual mechanism on how we trade, absolutely, it's going to be happening. So if you're in business, you want to be thinking more on that. You think around energy. Fossil fuels are outdated. Just to give you an idea, that it is now cheaper in a whole stack of countries around the world to get solar energy than it is to get coal energy. In Mexico, just below America, obviously Mexico, it cost them 2.7 cents per kilowatt, and it's 2.4 cents per kilowatt in the United Arab Emirates.
Wow. China
and India have stopped over 200 coal plants in favour of the solar. So you're thinking that there's huge amounts of that's happening. In Germany, I think it's 2030 that they're banning petrol cars, and there's a stack of other countries that are now only doing petrol cars. But Mercedes-Benz by 2020 will only produce electric cars. So there's massive shifts. Healthcare, I've already kind of mentioned about healthcare, but you can get gadgets that will diagnose. There's one called a tricorder that can diagnose the general amounts of health issues at a much better level than the top 15 diseases, better than what a doctor can. Transportation, we're talking about driverless cars, taxis. Elon Musk has got these super jets that are going to go suborbital so that you can travel within anywhere in the world within about 30 minutes. So real estate prices are going to change because a lot of the highly populated areas won't need to be because we've got to move. You're looking at the Uber and Virgin with I've just got the name, the fast and trains they're building in the US underground. The names just escaped me. So we're going to be able to transport ourselves.
The Boring Company?
The Boring Company is the company doing it, but I've just got the name of I've got Uber Lyft in my head, but it's not that. Robotics are changing. The artificial intelligence. Basically, most of the jobs, most of the menial tasks that we do right now won't be done by humans. They really won't. If it's a repetitive job, it won't happen. In thinking about that, Saudi Arabia in 2017 gave its first citizenship to a robot named Sophia. So you can just Google that. I mean, that's pretty amazing. They're able to do some incredible things. And then you think about looking into space and how much money is going into space. There's Amazon, who's got their space program. You've got the Virgin space program. You've got Elon Musk, even mining asteroids. I think the first asteroid will be mined in 2018, and there's more minerals on asteroid than you can poke a stick at. So there will be basically global abundance in a whole heap of things, in energy, in time, all these different areas, which means that we need to start thinking as business owners, how do we stay ahead of the game on those? So they're just some of the different things that come to mind for me. I I think it's about going forward in the future. If you're going to create a business that's really an asset, we've got to really think about how do we incorporate more of this so we don't become a dinosaur.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think that's all great. And some people get scared at that kind of talk about driverless cars and losing jobs, but I think people need to realise that there are always other opportunities that come up as well. So I think that's great, and I think that you've covered off of many different industries, and I think that's a lot of value. So David, before we wrap up, I just wanted to go through some quick fire questions. So if you're ready, just give us the quick answer for each of these questions. So the first one, you and I both love reading business books. So what's the current book that you're reading that you're getting value out of?
So the current book, actually, as in the current, as in coming back, is the latest one. It's not a business book, but I'll just say it anyway. Is the book from Dave Asprey, who's the guy who did Bulletproof Coffee. So just understanding how brains and how we want to supercharge our brains. And I've just got my name. I think it's called like Bulletproof something or other. That is probably my latest book. The other one is one by Ray Dalio called Principles, which I'm a massive fan of. They're probably they're the two that are that I'm currently immersing myself into.
What is a book that you think every business owner should read if they're going to read one book?
Oh, I know everyone asks, like, what's the one book? I don't think there is an answer to that. I think depending on where you are in your life cycle and your business would really depend on what's going to be the right one. If you've got a going concern business, so if your business is already operational, let's say it's $500,000 or so plus in revenue, then I love Keith Cunningham's book, The Ultimate Blueprint for a Outstanding Business, or The Ultimate Blueprint. Check. Oh, I haven't had it. The Ultimate Blueprint for an Insanely Successful Business by Keith Cunningham. No one will read that unless you know about it. It's a fantastic book, I'd say that. If your business is under $500,000, I actually think Bulletproof Business is a great way for you to, and if you want to revisit your why and purpose, we actually take you through from the startup mode all the way through to doing a team, productizing, packaging, and how to market. It's a really simple, easy read, just really like how-tos on how to pull that together.
Yep.
So depending on where your business is, I'd say they'd be the two I'd recommend.
Cool. All right. So we talked a bit about your purpose before. So what is your purpose in business?
I'll do my personal purpose. So for me, my personal purpose is to love, lead, and inspire myself and others so that together we're living our passion, we're living our flow. So that's me, and how that translates in business is the client vision. And that is we're here to create intergenerational wealth and prosperity so that collectively where ourselves and our communities are benefiting and that we are contributing to world abundance. So that is exactly all the business dealings that I have are all around focused on improving in those areas.
Cool. And the last one, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would that be?
Well, I'm going to say my younger business self. So my younger business self would be, don't think you can do it all on your own. I think the more talented you are, the more skilled you are, the more you actually can do something is a bigger trap. So I would suggest to myself is do that time thing that we talked about earlier than what I did it. So don't do what I did, try and do it all yourself. Get out there and in fact that advice I gave here, I would just suggest that I would say do that earlier. I had to learn that too late in the program until I was feeling like I was more burnt out, and that's dumb. So I would suggest to my earlier self, get on, focus on your time, and build a business that's a going concern rather than something that revolves around you.
Great. Well, that's it from the quickfire questions. So let me just conclude with, have we missed anything important that you think that we should get across to people in today's interview?
Probably, I think just a little bit on that last question there is don't think you do it on your own. I personally invest well over 6 figures every year in my own mentors and coach. We eat our own cooking in this thing. I believe that if you don't have someone there that's co-pilot business that doesn't have, they're not going to get, there's no vested interest for them. They're externalized looking at business. I think it's going to grow slow. It's going to be too slow for you. So I just suggest, and I am clearly biased, so take what I'm saying with not just a grain of salt, but a bowl of salt. But we had the Olympics not so long ago. We've got Commonwealth Games coming up, There will not be a single team that has gone to any of those at the highest performance level that don't have a coach. They all have a coach. They all have someone that's looking at their game, and people that are the highest achievers all love being tracked. They love being monitored because they want to see how they can do better. And the best way to do that is to be accountable to someone else or to another group of people rather than yourself. So probably that'd be the only other thing I would suggest. If you can do it on your own, it is going to be a slow route to progress.
Great. And so finally, if people want to talk to you about anything we've discussed today or find out a bit about yourself, where can they reach out to you?
You can go onto LinkedIn, so Dr. David Dugan, and just search for me there. You can connect with me that way. You can go on to my website, which is www.daviddugan.com, and you can connect with us that way. Also through, if you want to go to Facebook as well, it's Dr. David Dugan, and you can connect with those. So LinkedIn, Facebook, or go onto our website, and you can connect us there. And happy to have a chat. If it's a Business Legal Lifecycle member, if they want to have 15 minutes, have a chat with me just to go through anything that might be important for them, then happy to kind of do that as a freebie, less than the next 1 or 2 years anyway.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. If anyone wants to contact you, they can contact you on one of those channels. Thanks, David.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, team. Catch you. Bye.